we're here. All right, welcome in, guys. I am going to do a little update. I have to apologize to everybody. I'm rewriting legislation, and this is the stack of legislation that I'm rewriting this week. So, I am very tired. I'm like working really, really hard on very technical aspects of environmental legislation, and so I am just a bit exhausted. And not only that, there's a bit of emotional processing going on, and yeah. Anyways, I picked up this beautiful piece of eucalypt the other day, and so I'm just gonna put this here. This reading today is going to be a message from Spirit for the Pleadian Starseeds. I want to pay respect to the indigenous and acknowledge them as the traditional owners and custodians of the land. And just give my heartfelt respect, my deep respect to country, to their culture, and to all of the ancient wisdom that they carry in their DNA. So it might be interesting. Why don't I use an indigenous deck? And the answer is because I haven't found one that is actually. Ooh, yes, we've got the sun. I haven't found one that is actually painted by and put together by indigenous artists. So I am on the hunt and the look for one. Ooh, I've got messages popping up, cards popping out. That was the Two of Wands. Okay, well, right away, that's the message for me, because I have two friends that are indigenous artists, and I don't know why I did not think to ask them. So clearly, this is a message to me about. Sorry, I'm gonna have to check that on Do Not Disturb. It's the end of the workday isn't quite done yet, so I'm kind of sneaking off to get this reading in. All right. Yeah, okay. So the first message here then is all about freedom and opportunity. So the sun is a big yes card. I'm still getting used to like the mirror imaging. The sun. Nope, the sun. I need to actually put a mirror in front of me or something so that I can get this right. Okay, so the sun is the yes card of the tarot deck, and it represents freedom and liberation and really all of that beautiful conscious energy just being beamed and directed into us. And then the Two of Wands card represents sort of looking out into the future and looking at what possibilities lie ahead. So obviously for me, that was an immediate intuition, like, why don't I have an indigenous deck? I've got indigenous friends who are artists, so I need to get together and help them create a tarot deck. So that will be something that I will put on my list of things to do for July. You know what's interesting? I don't know if I have told you I don't know if I've told you guys this story. So I work in community, and well, not right now, I'm doing more office stuff, but in the past I've worked in community, and I brought my cards up and obviously the Western symbology on the cards, isn't congruent with the indigenous symbologies. So I had an auntie pull some cards, and the very first card that she pulled was from the Lightseers Oracle, the Lightseers Tarot, and it was the Two of Swords, the one where the lady's sort of wrapped up and she's got the two crows, and in her mob, crows are like death omens. So it was a really interesting experience. She's like, this lady's a witch. And I'm like, I am, but you're a witch as well. So, yeah, I think, and I talk a lot about understanding how different cultures use and how important it is that we're using their systems correctly, or at least understanding where they come from. So that was an interesting foray into reading tarot cards with the women's circles in Northern Australia. We did get through that first rough patch, and I ended up going through and like explaining the stories, and then they would tell me what their stories were and like how they match up with the different symbologies. So it was actually a really lovely experience. All right, let's see if we can get an oracle card, because right now what I really want to focus on is what it is that the Pleiadians, like, we've got all this stuff happening in politics. We've got there's a lot of Schumann resonance going on right now, and so where are we in our journey, and what is it that we actually need to focus on? I'm using the Lemurian. I love this deck by Izzy, Beyond Lemuria. So we've got 2 oracle cards here to start us off. This is the first one. This woman kind of reminds me a bit of Callie here, right? Not the Callie that I've got tattooed on me, but the other Callie. There's like three different versions of Callie. Kali Ma, I think, is the black Callie. And it says Internal Explorer. So the next card I pulled was this angel here, and the message is transformation. So I'll read a little bit here. For Internal Explorer, it says, when we stop looking outside ourselves and surrender to soft inner focus, we have access to unlimited information and resources. Transformation says, go inwards and be present with whatever you are at in your process. Feel whatever you need to feel. It may be hard to be present with some parts of yourself. So I definitely had that. I had a couple of meetings this morning, and then I decided I needed a salt bath. So I've just gotten out of the bath and taking a bit of time today, midday, to do a little bit of self-care and to touch in with you guys. So I think right now it looks like we're in a period of pulling ourselves back and doing that internal work. And so it talks about, for the difficult aspects of yourself, bringing them into a cocoon of gentle self-love and reflection. So I might read a bit more about these cards as we go. Maybe I can, this is a perfectly fine place for me to be doing readings. Here we go. What do we got? All right, I think no. All right, there we go. So those are our overall oracle cards for the reading. All right. So I was gonna say, you guys can't see my coffee cup. Good. All right. So let's take a look at. I'm gonna pull 3 rows, and 3 cards, 3 rows. And we'll look at sort of like the crux of the situation, maybe the ground of the situation. The middle row will be the transformative, what's changing. And I know not everybody is super happy about how long it takes to go through and pull these cards. I don't know. I think some people like seeing the shuffling, other people don't. They just want to see the reading. I don't want to pull cards that aren't actually jumping out at me. Here we go. I'm gonna have to take 2 here. Okay. So for the bottom row, which is, like I said, sort of the root of the current energies or the foundation, we have the 4 of Cups, and that came out in reverse. So the 4 of Cups can be about, generally it's a card that means apathy, right? The Rider Waite has the gentleman, and he's got the cup in the clouds and 3 cups on the ground, and he's sort of discontent with whatever it is that he has. When it comes in reverse, it often means not seeing the opportunities that are right in front of you. But I'm going to say, because I like reading, you know, it's easy to buy. I've ordered a couple of decks, and I've got a couple more in my storage locker that I want to pick up very shortly. But it's important, I think, as a reader, if we're going to use different decks, to not, like, I could just read the typical meaning from the Rider Waite, even though I'm using another deck. But let's see if we can get another message here that comes directly from this particular tarot deck. So we see here that this rat is balancing on these cups, and he's taking, like, look at how his paw is out there. He's taking a very long time. He's like, to balance on these cups must be some sort of extraordinary feat, right? So he's very much taking his time, and in fact, he doesn't look like, the way that he's drawn, it doesn't look like that he's in motion at all. So I would say that the meaning of this, because cups represent emotions, and this card came up in reverse, the first aspect of the ground of the situation that we're in right now has to do with not transmuting emotions, maybe not sort of crawling through them slowly like this rat is on top of these cups. Next we have the 3 of Wands, which came up in reverse. So the 3 of Wands is a portal card, and here this portal in the upright is a grounding portal. So that's sort of drawing, it's a portal that funnels energy and information from the ethers down through us and through our heart center. When it comes up in reverse, I think it can often mean that we need to work on this base, or that maybe we're spending a little bit too much time in our base chakras. So balancing out those base chakras. So we've got emotions and a disruption in the base, which is not allowing for us to properly funnel energy. And the root cause of that is the 5 of Swords and the 2 of Pentacles. So the 5 of Swords is about conflict. It can be about betrayal. It generally means one person winning out at the expense of two other people. The Two of Pentacles is about choice. It's about grounding choices in. You know, on this card, we've got these earthworms here, and worms are something that nourish and condition the soil. And the soil is the ground or the earth energy. So it tells me that the conflict here is about disruptions or I would say disruptions in our ability to balance what it is that we're grounding in. The Two of Pentacles does call for a choice. Sort of all of the twos represent a point of departure, right? The Two of Wands is looking out into the future, and then on the Three, he's going to have to decide what he wants to do. The Two of Cups is about choosing partnership, and then the Three is about celebrating that. The Two of Pentacles is about choosing with respect to stability. And then the Threes are about those contractual obligations that come with making that choice. Okay, so the next section that we will do, I'm just feeling called to do a little super mix. All right, already we've got some cards here. How's like this one? And there we go. All right. Okay, so the point of transformation that we're at right now, we've got the Four of Swords in reverse. So the Four of Swords is about resting, recuperating. And when it comes up in reverse, it can mean, sometimes it can mean that we're being rushed into doing something. It can also mean that we don't have the downloads that we need yet, which can be a challenging position to not have the time to take to get the downloads, or not having the ability to connect to get the downloads, but at the same time being required to make them because you're in that rush position. The second card that we have is the Tower in reverse. So with these two cards together, what it says to me is that in some way where we're at is we are trying to plug holes. You see how these swords right here almost look like, you know, they could go up into this tower and sort of plug the holes of everything from this tower falling out. The tower represents transformation, but it represents transformation in a way where everything that was built it wasn't solid. It wasn't built on truth, and it wasn't built on what the Most High wants. So you know, right now this says to me that we're in a period of sort of waiting, waiting for inspiration to see what it is that needs to be crumbled, but at the same time not really having that time, and structures crumbling nonetheless. Now, if we're going to have a tower period, the type of tower period that we want is we want for things to crumble that were false, and we want things to crumble that inevitably had to crumble for us to be in alignment with our true and destined path. So the next card that we have here is Temperance. And Temperance is all about balance and healing. Actually, the star is a lot about healing. Temperance is really about being touched by the living waters, right? The archangel here has the triangle, which points to his connection to the divine, and he's pouring water from left to right, right to left. And he's sort of standing between two worlds here, right? He's got one foot in the water and one foot on the ground. So he's balancing emotions and groundedness, stability, but he's doing that from these waters that are being balanced over and through his heart chakra. Okay, I'm gonna put these decks together. Ooh. Ooh, this might not go as easily as I had planned. I got them. All right. Oh, they aren't the same size. This is the first time that I've done this mega deck situation. Okay, so I want to pull future focus here now. How can we transform this situation so that we can move forward with this, unrestricted freedom? The sun is arguably like the happiest card in the deck, and we want to have that happiness and that freedom and liberation in what it is that we move forward with, what it is that we've got the whole world in our hand there. It's not as easy to, ooh, I can't tell which one it was now. Come on, Spirit, help me out with this mega deck. All right, one more card. The last row, last card. All right, so how do we move past the current situation? The first card that we got is the Nine of Wands in reverse. So the Nine of Wands, nine of Wands is a card of, maybe I should move this mic a little bit closer. There we go. The Nine of Wands, is that going to balance? Is this going to balance? There we go. The Nine of Wands is a card of being very guarded, right? In the traditional Rider-Waite. And the opportunity here is, to move from being guarded to not being guarded and moving up towards this moon here is to start taking a path forward, little steps at a time. The next two cards that we have are the Seven of Pentacles in reverse and the King of Wands in reverse. So the Seven of Pentacles is a call to take a look at what you have planted and what you are reaping. So because it came out in reverse, we're looking at what it is that we actually need to do to move forward. And all of these cards in the top row came out in reverse, so it's very much a call to action here. And the first one is, what have I planted and what have I reaped? in connection with that, we have got the King of Wands, which came out in reverse. And the King of Wands in reverse is very distorted fire energy. So a lot of anger, a lot of flying off the handle, maybe even yelling, or just a complete lack of focus is the other option, the other way to read that. So what we need to do is we need to take baby steps and look at what we've planted and what we're reaping with regards to our focus. And the last card was the Emperor in reverse. So the Emperor upright is, the Emperor is the person who controls the kingdom, right? They're the ones that have the ultimate say about how the kingdom is run. So when the Emperor is in reverse, it often represents like a lack of foresight. It can also represent, just not having a plan, not having a goal. It represents this uprootedness here rather than being grounded and planting roots and really having something that, this tree is sort of on the straight and narrow and reaching towards the sun, and it's well rooted, and it's in this very nice sort of organized formation. All the branches, it's not shabby looking. Like only one half have branches. So it's asking us to become very well rounded and grounded and structured and organized. But what we're doing that in respect to is looking at our focus and making those baby steps towards what it is that we need to manifest our goals. And we do that by taking baby steps, looking at what we plant and what we harvest with regards to our focus. All right, guys, let's go back to our oracle cards here. When we stop thinking with the glass ceiling of our intellect, we have access to multi-dimensional wisdom from collective consciousness. Everything is there for you, waiting for expression. You're invited to explore the state of flow. Cry or be angry if this is what you're holding on to, and laugh at the irony and the divine perfection of it all. All right, guys, I think that's a good place for us to stop today. I hope that you're able to move towards this sense of freedom about what it is that you are working to in order to have the whole world in your hands. We'll see you next time.